I want to start at the beginning, too, about where this was. My interest in psychotherapy got charged up in the year 1942 when I read a book by a total stranger that was called Counseling and Psychotherapy, a very interesting title. At the time, I was a school teacher, and by then I had taught 9 years and got interested in working with individual children. So the idea of counseling and therapy was very appealing, and so it made me want to go to graduate school. I had not had any graduate work in those years, but I did make a decision to go to graduate school and learn about psychology and learn about psychotherapy. And I did. I went to the University of Minnesota. And then the turning point for me was the year 1947, when I had finished my dissertation and I couldn't find any excuses to hang around the school any longer. I mean, just couldn't. So I knew I had to go to work. And in that time, people sometimes send out a flurry of letters, which I did not do. I sent out a flurry of one letter, and I sent it to Carl Rogers. And I said, Rogers, I want to go work with you because I like the way you do therapy, and importantly, he was the only person, and it was the only place that was doing research in therapy. Way back, this is pretty primitive, no one was doing research in therapy. Why? Because it was so private. Therapy was done in a very private room. Nobody was allowed to come in. What he did was he and his students, to make a homemade recording machine, the first of its kind. He could begin recording interviews and thereby studying them. The first person to study, the first agency to study what psychotherapy really was like. Was it a chaotic relationship, or was it a lawful relationship that had structures that were visible? The second was correct. It turned out that they found lawfulness and structures in psychotherapy. So we were exalted, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to get there. I also wanted to get there because of the evolution of the kind of therapy that Rogers had devised. And I want to tell you just a little bit about that. And by the way, we won't just have plain talk about psychotherapy. I have a few tapes that I'm going to play that's real honest-to-goodness therapy, for better or worse. So you'll hear it.